When billionaire Elon Musk walked into a small Mexican restaurant in Austin, Texas, he expected nothing more than a quiet dinner after a long day. What happened instead would change multiple lives forever. The restaurant owner looked him straight in the eye and said the words that started it all. "We don't serve people who hurt working families." Most rich and powerful people would have stormed out angry. Some might have posted harsh words on social media. Others would have simply forgotten about it and moved on. But what Elon Musk did next was so unexpected, so shocking, that it revealed a 25-year-old secret that would transform a struggling family's life in ways no one could have imagined. This is the true story of one rainy Tuesday night that proved sometimes the most powerful response to rejection is not revenge, but something far more surprising. The rain fell hard on Austin that Tuesday night. March 15, 2024 would become a date that changed everything, though nobody knew it yet. Elon Musk sat in his black Tesla Model S outside the Tesla Gigafactory. His phone buzzed with messages about rocket launches and car production numbers. His head hurt from 12 hours of meetings. All he wanted was a quiet dinner somewhere simple. "Rose's Kitchen," he said to himself, reading a Google review on his phone. "Best Mexican food in South Austin. Family-owned for 12 years. Perfect. No fancy restaurants tonight, no photographers or crowds, just good food and peace." Elon parked on South Lamar Boulevard and walked through the rain. His jeans were old and comfortable. His black t-shirt had a small hole near the bottom. He looked like any tired guy getting dinner after work. Rose's Kitchen glowed warm and yellow in the darkness. Through the windows, he saw families eating together. Kids laughed while parents talked. The smell of fresh tortillas drifted out every time the door opened. Inside, the restaurant buzzed with happy noise. 20 tables filled a cozy space decorated with hand-painted tiles and family photos. Mexican music played softly from old speakers. Elon waited by the host stand, scrolling through SpaceX data on his phone. A Falcon 9 rocket would launch tomorrow morning. Everything looked good for liftoff. "Next guest, please," called a young woman behind the podium. Elon looked up to see Maria Santos, 19 years old with kind brown eyes and nervous hands. She wore the restaurant's bright red t-shirt and had engineering textbooks stacked beside. "The cash register." Maria's eyes went wide when she saw his face. Her mouth opened slightly. She knew exactly who stood in front of her. "Oh my," she whispered, then caught herself. Welcome to Rose's Kitchen." "Just dinner for one, please," Elon said with a tired smile. "Wherever you have space." Maria glanced around the busy restaurant. Several tables sat empty, but her face showed worry instead of excitement. She looked toward the kitchen, then back at Elon. I need to check something," she said quietly. "Can you wait just 1 minute?" Elon nodded, not thinking much about it. Restaurant workers checked table assignments all the time. But Maria didn't go to check tables. She walked quickly to the kitchen where Carlos Hernandez, the owner, flipped quesadillas on a hot grill. "Carlos," Maria whispered urgently. "He's here." "Who's here?" Carlos asked, not looking up from his cooking. "Elon Musk, the Tesla guy. He wants a table." Carlos's spatula stopped moving. He turned to stare at Maria with dark, angry eyes. "No," he said firmly. "What do you mean, no?" "No. We don't serve him. Tell him we're full." "But we're not full. We have empty tables." "Tell him anyway." Maria's heart sank. 3 weeks ago, Carlos had made a rule after reading about Tesla layoffs in the newspaper. No service for Elon Musk. Ever. Maria walked back to the host stand on shaking legs. "Other Customers started noticing the man in simple clothes waiting patiently. Some pulled out phones. "I'm sorry, sir," Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper. We can't seat you tonight." Elon looked confused. "Is there a wait? I'm happy to wait." "No, sir. There's no wait." Maria's hands trembled as she gripped her podium. "My manager says, we're not allowed to serve you." The restaurant began to quiet down. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Everyone sensed something unusual happening. Elon stood there for a moment, processing what he'd just heard. He'd been criticized plenty. Protesters had picketed his factories. Twitter users attacked him daily. But he'd never been refused basics: service at a restaurant. "May I ask why?" Elon asked gently. He could see how upset Maria looked. Before she could answer, Carlos stormed out of the kitchen. His apron was stained with salsa, and his face was red with anger. "You need to leave," Carlos said loudly. "Right now. We don't serve people who hurt working families." The entire restaurant fell silent. 20 tables of customers turned to stare. Phone cameras started recording. Elon looked around at all the watching faces. Kids stared with wide eyes. Parents held their breath. Even the kitchen staff had come out to see what was happening. "I understand," Elon said quietly. "I'm sorry for any trouble." He turned and walked toward the door. Rain soaked through his t-shirt the moment he stepped outside. Behind him, the restaurant exploded with whispered conversations and clicking phones. Elon sat in his Tesla for a long moment, rain drumming on the roof. He could have driven away angry. He could have posted something harsh on Twitter. He could have forgotten the whole thing. Instead, he pulled out his phone and made a call that would change everything. "Gwynn," he said. When SpaceX President Gwynn Shotwell answered, "I need you to do something unusual." And for the first time that night, Elon Musk smiled. 3 weeks earlier, Carlos Hernandez sat at his kitchen table above Rosa's kitchen. The breakfast dishes were dirty. The coffee was cold. But Carlos couldn't stop reading the news on his phone. "Tesla cuts 10,000 found. Jobs to save money," read the headline. Below it was a photo of Elon Musk smiling at some fancy event. Carlos's hands shook as he read the article. 10,000 families, 10,000 people worried about rent and food and their children's future. All while the boss bought Twitter for $44 billion. "Rosa," Carlos called to his wife. "Come look at this." Rosa Hernandez walked over, drying her hands on a dish towel. She'd been cooking since 4 in the morning, getting ready for the lunch rush. At 52, Rosa had kind eyes and strong hands from 20 years of restaurant work. She read over Carlos's shoulder. Her face grew sad. "Those poor families," she whispered. "You know what makes me angry?" Carlos said, his voice getting louder. "Rich people play with billions while we worry about paying rent. Every month, Rosa. Every single month we count pennies." Rosa sat down beside her husband. They'd owned Rosa's kitchen for 12 years. Good years and bad years. Years when they barely made enough money to keep the lights on. "Remember when Diego was little?" Carlos continued. "When he got sick and we couldn't afford the doctor? We had to choose between medicine and groceries." Rosa remembered. Their son Diego was 16 now, but she'd never forget those scary nights. When he had a fever and they had no money for help? "Rich people don't understand," Carlos said, staring at Elon's photo. "They fire thousands of people like it's nothing. Like families don't matter." "Carlos, you don't know his heart," Rosa said softly. Maybe there's more to the story. What story? He bought a toy for $40 billion while people lost their jobs. That's the story. Carlos made a decision that morning. If Elon Musk ever came to Rosa's kitchen, he wouldn't serve him. Not a chance. I mean it, Rosa. That man won't eat in our restaurant. Not ever. Rosa disagreed, but she knew better than to argue when Carlos felt this strongly about something. He was a good man, with a big heart. Sometimes that heart hurt too much. The truth was, Carlos understood struggle better than most people. He'd come to America from Mexico when he was 20, speaking very little English. He'd worked construction during the day and washed dishes. At night, when he met Rosa, she was a single mother working 2 jobs to support her baby son from her first marriage. Carlos fell in love with both Rosa and little Diego. He adopted Diego when the boy was 3 years old. Starting the restaurant had been Rosa's dream. She'd learned to cook from her grandmother in Guadalajara. Her recipes were family secrets passed down for generations, but dreams cost money they didn't have. Carlos worked 3 different jobs to save enough for the restaurant. Rosa cooked food from their tiny apartment kitchen and sold it to neighbors. For 5 years, they saved every penny. No movies, no new clothes, no vacations, just work and saving and hoping. When they finally opened Rosa's kitchen, Diego was 8 years old. He helped by cleaning tables and folding napkins. The whole family worked together to make their dream real. Now Diego was 16 and brilliant with computers and machines, but he struggled in other ways. Diego had autism, which made school hard sometimes. Other kids didn't understand him. Teachers thought he wasn't paying attention when really his mind worked differently than everyone else's. Carlos worried about Diego's future. Would college accept a kid who was different? Would anyone hire him? Would he be okay in the world? That's why the Tesla layoffs hurt so much. Carlos saw those 10,000 families and thought about his own family's struggles. He thought about Diego's challenges and Rosa's long hours and their constant worry about money. If that man ever comes here, Carlos told his restaurant staff, that week, we don't serve him. I don't care how famous he is. Maria Santos had been working at Rosa's kitchen for 8 months. She was 19 and studying engineering at the University of Texas. She worked nights and weekends to pay for college because her family couldn't afford to help. When Carlos made his no-service rule, Maria felt torn inside. She understood Carlos's anger about the layoffs. Losing a job was terrible. She'd seen her own father struggle to find work when the construction company let him go. But Maria also believed in space, exploration and electric cars. She had pictures of SpaceX rockets on her phone. She knew every Tesla model by heart. She dreamed of working for a company that was trying to save the planet and reach Mars. Elon Musk was her hero, even if she understood why Carlos hated him. What? If he's not as bad as the news makes him seem? Maria had asked Carlos one day. Rich people are all the same, Carlos had replied. They only care about money. Maria didn't argue, but in her heart, she hoped Carlos was wrong. The night Elon walked into Rosa's kitchen, Maria recognized him immediately. Her heart jumped with excitement. Then it dropped with dread when she remembered Carlos's rule. She had to choose between her job and her conscience, between her dreams and her loyalty. Standing at that host podium, watching Elon Musk get soaked in the rain, Maria made a choice that would change everything. She decided to send him an email. Back in Tijuana, his Tesla outside Rosa's kitchen, Elon listened to the rain hit his windshield. The phone rang once before Gwyn Shotwell answered. Elon? Everything okay? It's late. I'm fine, Gwyn. but I need you to do something that might sound strange. Gwynne Shotwell had worked with Elon for over 20 years. She was president of SpaceX and one of the smartest people he knew. She also understood him better than almost anyone. "I'm listening," she said. Elon explained what had just happened at the restaurant. The angry owner, the scared hostess, the phones recording everything. "Instead of being mad," Elon said, "I want to understand. Find out about this family, not to hurt them, to really know them." "Okay," Gwynne said slowly. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking maybe that man was right to be angry. Maybe I need to see things from his side." Gwynne smiled on the other end of the phone. This was why she loved working with Elon. Most CEOs would want revenge. Elon wanted understanding. "I'll have my team look into it tomorrow," she said. "Thanks, Gwynne. And one more thing. I have an idea brewing, but I need more information first." The next morning, Gwynne's assistant, James Chen, got to work early. James was great at finding information quickly and quietly. By noon, he had a complete picture of the Hernandez family. Carlos Hernandez, age 54, owned Rosa's Kitchen with his wife Rosa. They'd worked for 12 years to build their small business. Carlos worked 16-hour days. Rosa cooked from 4 in the morning until midnight. Their son Diego was 16 and incredibly smart. He fixed computers for neighbors to earn money for college. His grades were perfect in math and science, but he struggled with social situations. James also found something sad. Rosa's Kitchen was 3 months behind on rent. The building owner wanted to sell to developers who planned to tear down the whole block to build luxury apartments. "The family is barely hanging on," James told Gwynne during their video call. "One more bad month, and they'll lose everything." Gwynne called Elon with the information. "Sir, there's something else you should know. The hostess who had to turn you away? Her name is Maria Santos." "Tell me about her." 19 years old, engineering student at UT Austin. Perfect grades, but working nights to pay for school. She's applied for internships at SpaceX and Tesla 3 times, but never heard back. Elon went quiet for a long moment. Through his office window at the Gigafactory, he could see Austin growing and changing. New buildings went up every month. Small businesses disappeared to make room for big corporations. "Gwynne, what if we're part of the problem?" he said finally. "What do you mean?" "This family is struggling while we talk about going to Mars. This girl dreams of working for us, but we never even saw her applications. Maybe that restaurant owner was right to be angry." Gwynne had worked in aerospace for 30 years. She'd seen how technology could help humanity, but she'd also seen how progress sometimes left people behind. "What do you want to do about it?" she asked. "I want to show them that innovation and family values don't have to be enemies, that we can reach for Mars and still care about the people next door." Elon spent the rest of the day making phone calls to his assistant, to Tesla engineers, to the head of his foundation, to Austin City Council members he'd met at business events. Each conversation was short, but his plan grew bigger with every call. That evening, Elon did something unusual. He posted on Twitter, "Sometimes the best lessons come from unexpected places. Austin taught me something important today. More soon." The post got 1 million views in an hour. People tried to guess what had happened. Tech blogs wrote articles speculating about new Tesla factories or SpaceX launches. But no one guessed the truth. Meanwhile, Maria Santos sat in her tiny apartment near UT campus. Her engineering textbooks covered every surface. Her laptop was old and slow, but it worked. She stared at a blank email for 2 hours before she finally started typing. Dear SpaceX team, my name is Maria Santos. I study engineering at UT Austin. I work nights to pay for school at a family restaurant called Rosa's Kitchen. 3 days ago, I had to tell Elon Musk he couldn't eat at our restaurant. My manager has a rule against serving him because of the Tesla layoffs. I felt terrible about it. I know Mr. Musk probably gets thousands of emails, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. His work inspires me every day. I dream of helping humans reach Mars someday. I've applied for internships at SpaceX 3 times. I understand if you can't hire everyone, but I hope someday I can make up for what happened at the restaurant. Space exploration gives me hope for the future, even when everything feels impossible here on Earth. Thank you for reading this. Maria Santos, engineering student, UT Austin, maria.santos.engagemail.com. Maria read the email 10 times. Then she attached her resume and hit send before she could change her mind. She didn't expect anyone to read it. Big companies got millions of emails every day. But 2 hours later, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Maria answered nervously. Hi, Maria. This is Gwynn Shotwell from SpaceX. I got your email. Maria almost dropped her phone. You? What? How? Your email was beautiful and honest. We'd like to offer you an interview for our internship program. Can you come to our Austin facility next week? Maria started crying right there in her apartment. Happy tears mixed with scared tears. I would love to, she said through her tears. But I might have to quit my job at the restaurant. Carlos and Rosa need me, especially now. Maria, Gwynn said gently, what if I told you that you might not have to choose? What do you mean? Mr. Musk has been thinking about your situation. All of your situations. He has some ideas that might help everyone. After the call ended, Maria sat in her apartment wondering what was happening. First, Elon Musk gets rejected from her restaurant. Then, SpaceX calls her directly. None of it made sense. But for the first time in months, Maria felt like maybe her dreams weren't impossible after all. While Maria dreamed of Mars and Elon planned in secret, Diego Hernandez sat in his small bedroom above Rosa's kitchen. The room was tiny, but every inch was filled with amazing inventions. Computer parts covered his desk. Circuit boards hung from the ceiling like metal art. In the corner sat a robot he'd built from old washing machine parts. The robot helped his mother carry heavy pots from the kitchen to the dining room. Diego was 16, but his mind worked like a 30-year-old engineer. Numbers and machines made perfect sense to him. People were much harder to understand. Tonight, Diego worked on his newest invention. Wires connected to solar panels, filters made from old coffee containers, a small pump from a broken fish tank. To most people, it looked like junk. To Diego, it was a water purification system that could help save the world. Diego, Rosa called from downstairs. Dinner! 5 more minutes, Mom, Diego called back, not looking up from his work. He'd been working on this project for 3 months. The idea came to him during science class when his teacher talked about clean water problems around the world. Millions of people didn't have safe water to drink. Kids got sick and died from dirty water every day. That same night, Diego had watched a SpaceX video about going to Mars. Astronauts would need clean water in space. They couldn't bring enough water from Earth for a long trip. What if I could solve both problems? Diego had thought. Clean water for Earth and for space. Most 16-year-olds would have forgotten the idea by morning. But Diego's brain didn't work like most teenagers. When he got interested in something, he couldn't stop thinking about it. At school, Diego struggled every day. Lincoln High School was loud and confusing. Students talked in groups he didn't understand. Teachers moved too fast between subjects. The cafeteria was so noisy it hurt his ears. His only friend was Sam Chen, whose parents owned Golden Dragon, restaurant next door to Rose's kitchen. Sam was quiet like Diego, but for different reasons. Sam was shy. Diego was different. "My dad heard something weird happened at your restaurant," Sam told Diego during lunch that Wednesday. "What do you mean?" Diego asked, picking at his sandwich. "Some famous guy got kicked out or something. My dad won't tell me who." Diego shrugged. He didn't pay attention to restaurant drama. He cared about rockets and robots and clean water systems. "Want to see my new project after school?" Diego asked. Sam smiled. "Always." That afternoon, the two boys sat in Diego's room while he explained his water purifier. Sam didn't understand all the technical parts, but he loved watching Diego's eyes light up when he talked about engineering. "It uses solar power to run a pump," Diego explained, pointing to each part. "The water goes through 3 different filters I made myself: sand, charcoal, and this special material I created from recycled plastic bottles." "Does it work?" Sam asked. Diego grinned and poured dirty water from a jar into his machine. The solar panel caught light from his window. The pump hummed quietly. Clean, clear water dripped out the other end. "Wow," Sam whispered. "That's amazing." "I want to enter it in the state science fair," Diego said. "The winner gets a $1,000 scholarship for college." Sam's smile faded. "Diego, my parents told me something yesterday. Your restaurant might have to close." Diego's heart stopped. "What do you mean, close?" "The building owner wants to sell. My parents are worried about our restaurant too. The whole block might get torn down." Diego felt like the world was spinning. Rose's kitchen wasn't just their business, it was their home. His bedroom was above. The restaurant. His inventions filled the storage room downstairs. His whole life was connected to this place. That night, Diego couldn't sleep. He snuck downstairs to get some water and heard his parents talking quietly in Spanish. His mother was crying. "The rent went up again," Rosa whispered. "Sales are down since that big chain restaurant opened across the street." "We'll figure something out," Carlos said, but his voice sounded scared. "Maybe I can get a job at the construction site downtown, work there during the day and here at night." "You already work 16 hours a day," Rosa said. "You'll make yourself sick." "What choice do we have? This restaurant is everything we've built. It's Diego's future, too." Diego crept back upstairs with tears in his eyes. His parents had sacrificed everything for their family and their dream. Now, they might lose it all. He looked at his homemade SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket model sitting on his desk. Elon Musk had built amazing companies that reached for the stars. But Diego's family couldn't even keep their small restaurant open. The next day at school, Diego's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, announced the annual science fair. "This year's theme is Innovation for Humanity," she said. "Projects should help solve real-world problems. The state winner receives a $1,000 scholarship and gets to present their project at the Texas Science Academy." Diego's hand shot up immediately. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what if a project could help people on Earth and in space?" Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. Diego rarely spoke in class, but when he did, it was always something brilliant. "That sounds perfect, Diego. Do you have an idea?" "I'm working on a water purification system. It could help people in poor countries get clean water. But it could also help astronauts on Mars." Other students turned to look at Diego. Some rolled their eyes. "Mars," whispered a girl named Jessica. "That's stupid." But Mrs. Rodriguez got excited. "Diego, That's exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. When can you show me your project? It's almost finished, Diego said quietly. But I need help with one part. The filtration system works, but I want to make it smaller and more efficient. What kind of help do you need? Diego took a deep breath. I need to talk to a real engineer. Someone who knows about space technology and water systems. Mrs. Rodriguez thought for a moment. There are engineers at UT Austin who might help. Or maybe someone at one of the tech companies here in Austin. Diego nodded. But inside he was thinking about something else. He knew exactly which engineer he wanted to talk to. The same person his father had banned from their restaurant. That afternoon, Diego worked on his project with new determination. If his family was going to lose everything, maybe his invention could help them somehow. Maybe it could earn enough scholarship money to help pay for college. Maybe it could even save the restaurant. But he needed help from someone who understood both water purification and space technology. Someone who cared about helping people on Earth and reaching Mars. Diego looked at his SpaceX poster and made a decision that would change everything. He was going to find a way to contact Elon Musk. 3 days after her phone call with Gwynne Shotwell, Maria Santos arrived at Rosa's kitchen for her evening shift. Her hands still shook when she thought about the SpaceX interview scheduled for Monday. But tonight felt different. Carlos was in a terrible mood, and Maria could sense trouble brewing. You see this? Carlos waved his phone angrily as Maria tied her apron. Some blogger wants to interview me about what happened with that Musk guy. Maria's stomach dropped. What blogger? Austin Food Scene. They heard about us refusing service. They want to make us famous for standing up to rich people. Rosa looked up from chopping onions. Carlos, maybe we should think about this. Publicity can be good or bad. It's good, Carlos said firmly. People need to know that working families won't be pushed around anymore. Maria forced a smile, but inside she felt sick. If this story went viral, it could hurt both the restaurant and Elon Musk. And what would SpaceX think when they saw their potential intern in the middle of a controversy? During her dinner break, Maria sat in the back alley behind the restaurant. Austin's skyline glittered in the distance. Somewhere out there, SpaceX engineers were building rockets that would carry humans to Mars. And somehow, impossibly, they wanted to interview her. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate. Did you decide about that internship thing? You've been weird all week. Maria stared at the message. She hadn't told anyone about the SpaceX opportunity. It felt too big, too impossible to be real. But it was real. Monday at 2 o'clock, she would walk into the SpaceX facility and interview for her dream job. The same company she'd applied to 3 times without even getting a response. Maria, Carlos called from the kitchen. Table 6 needs their check. Maria hurried back inside. The dinner rush was starting, and Rosa's kitchen filled with familiar faces. Regular customers who came every week. Families celebrating birthdays. College students studying over cheap tacos. This place was her second home. Carlos and Rosa had given her a job when she desperately needed one. They'd let her study during slow periods. They'd fed her dinner when she couldn't afford groceries. How could she abandon them for her own dreams? At 9 o'clock, a man in an expensive suit walked in. He looked around the restaurant with calculating eyes, taking notes on his phone. That's him, Carlos whispered to Maria, the blogger. The interview lasted an hour. Carlos told the story, with passion, explaining how working families suffer while billionaires play with space toys. The blogger recorded everything, asking questions that made Carlos more and more angry. Rich people like Musk think they own the world, Carlos said, his voice rising. "They fire thousands of workers, then expect us to serve them dinner like nothing happened. Well, not in my restaurant." Maria watched from behind the counter, her heart breaking with every word. She understood Carlos's anger. She really did. But she also knew there might be more to the story than newspaper headlines. After the blogger left, Carlos was energized and excited. "This is going to be big, Maria. People will hear about us standing up to corporate bullies." "Carlos," Rosa said, gently, "what if this brings the wrong kind of attention? What if people attack us online?" "Let them try," Carlos said. "We're fighting for what's right." That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She walked around campus until midnight, thinking about impossible choices. On one hand, SpaceX offered everything she'd ever dreamed of: engineering work that could help humanity reach the stars, a chance to use her brain for something bigger than serving tables. On the other hand, Rosa's kitchen was family, real family who needed her, especially now with money problems getting worse every day. Saturday morning, Maria made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She arrived at the restaurant early and asked Carlos and Rosa to sit down with her. "I need to tell you something," Maria said, her voice shaking. "SpaceX offered me an internship interview." Carlos's face went pale, then red with anger. "What? When?" After what happened with Mr. Musk. "I sent them an email apologizing for how he was treated. They called me back." "You apologized?" Carlos stood up so fast his chair fell over. "You apologized to them?" "Carlos, sit down," Rosa said firmly. "Let her talk." Maria took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about it all week. This internship could change my whole life. It's everything I've worked for since I was little." She paused, looking at their worried faces. "But I'm not taking it," Rosa gasped. Carlos looked confused. "What do you mean you're not taking it?" Rosa asked. "You both gave me a chance when I needed work. You've been like family to me. I won't abandon you now, especially when the restaurant is struggling." Carlos sat back down slowly. "Maria, this is about your future. You are my future. This place is my future. Some things are more important than career opportunities." Tears rolled down Rosa's cheeks. "Mija, you can't give up your dreams for us." "I'm not giving up my dreams. I'm choosing different ones. Dreams about loyalty and family and standing by people who matter." Carlos felt something crack open in his chest. This young woman, who could work for one of the most famous companies in the world, was choosing to stay with them instead. "Maria, that's not right," he said quietly. "Dreams like yours don't come along twice. Maybe not, but families like this don't either." Just then, Diego appeared in the doorway. He'd been listening from the stairs. "Maria, you can't give up SpaceX," he said urgently. "Do you know how amazing that company is? They're changing the world." "Diego, go back upstairs," Carlos said. "No, Dad. Maria, if you don't take that internship, you'll regret it forever." "No, you will." Maria smiled sadly at the brilliant 16-year-old. "Some things are more important than rockets, Diego." "Nothing is more important than rockets," Diego said seriously, making everyone laugh despite the heavy moment. That evening, Maria called Gwyn Shotwell. "Ms. Shotwell, thank you for the opportunity, but I can't take the internship. My restaurant. Family needs me right now." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Maria, can I ask you something? Do you think loyalty and dreams have to be enemies?" "What do you mean?" "What if there was a way to be loyal to your family and still reach for Mars? What if those things could help each other instead of fighting each other?" Maria didn't understand what Gwyn meant, but something in her voice made Maria's heart race with hope. Saturday morning came with bright sunshine and the usual breakfast rush at Rosa's kitchen. Diego worked on his science fair project in the back storage room, surrounded by boxes of napkins and cans of beans. His water purifier was almost finished. The solar panels caught morning light streaming through the small window. Clean water dripped steadily from his homemade filters into a glass jar. "It works," Diego whispered to himself, grinning. It really works, but he still needed help making it better, smaller, more efficient. Good enough to win the state science fair and its $1,000 prize. Diego had spent all night thinking about Maria's sacrifice. She was giving up SpaceX for his family. The least he could do was try to help save the restaurant with his invention. He'd written 3 different emails to Elon Musk, but deleted them all. How do you contact the most famous person in the world? What do you say to someone, your father? Banned from your restaurant? In the dining room, the lunch rush was starting. Maria took orders with a smile, but Carlos could see sadness in her eyes. She was trying to act normal, but giving up her dreams had left a hole in her heart. "Table for one?" Maria asked the next customer. But when she looked up, her breath caught in her throat. The woman standing in front of her had short gray hair and kind blue eyes. She wore simple jeans and a plain white shirt. But Maria recognized her immediately from SpaceX videos and engineering conferences. Gwynn Shotwell, president of SpaceX, stood in Rosa's kitchen like any normal customer. "Hi, Maria," Gwynn said with a warm smile. "I was in the neighborhood and heard the food here is amazing." Maria's hands trembled as she grabbed a menu. You came here? To our restaurant? I wanted to see this place that means so much to you. And honestly, I was curious about the enchiladas. Everyone in Austin talks about Rosa's cooking. Carlos noticed the new customer and walked over, suspicious. After the blogger interview, he was paranoid about strangers with phones and notebooks. "Is everything okay here?" Carlos asked Maria. "Carlos, this is..." Maria paused, not sure how to explain. "This is Gwynn. She's an engineer." Gwynn extended her hand to Carlos. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Hernandez. Your restaurant has a wonderful atmosphere." Carlos shook her hand but kept studying her face. Something about this woman seemed familiar, but he couldn't place her. "What kind of engineering do you do?" Carlos asked. "Aerospace. I work with rockets and spacecraft." Carlos's expression darkened slightly. "Like NASA?" "Something like that," Gwynn said diplomatically. "May I sit anywhere?" Rosa emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She studied Gwynn's face and saw something Carlos missed: genuine kindness and intelligence. "Sit wherever you're comfortable," Rosa said warmly. "Maria will take good care of you." As Gwynn settled into a corner booth, Maria brought her water and tortilla chips. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the salsa. "Relax," Gwynn said, gently. "I'm just here for lunch, and maybe to understand this place that's so important to you." While Gwynn studied the menu, other customers couldn't help but notice her. She had the quiet confidence of someone used to making important decisions. When she spoke, people listened. "I'll have the chicken enchiladas with green sauce," Gwynn told Maria. "And could you tell Rosa that I've heard amazing things about her cooking?" As Rosa prepared the order, Gwynn looked around the restaurant. She saw family photos on the walls, hand-painted tiles from Mexico, a community bulletin board covered with thank you notes from customers. This wasn't just a business. It was a heart beating at the center of a neighborhood. When Maria brought the enchiladas, Gwynn took a bite and her eyes lit up. "Oh, wow, This is incredible. Rosa's a real artist. She learned from her grandmother in Mexico, Maria said proudly. All the recipes are family secrets. Family recipes are the best kind. They carry love from one generation to the next. As they talked, Gwen asked Maria about engineering, space exploration, and her dreams. Other customers couldn't help but listen. Gwen made rocket science sound like poetry. The thing about reaching for Mars, Gwen said, is that the technology we develop helps people right here on Earth too. Water purification, solar power, battery storage, it all connects. Diego, working in the back room, heard voices talking about his favorite subjects: water purification, solar power, space technology. Curious, he peeked around the corner and nearly dropped his wrench. Gwyn Shotwell sat in his family's restaurant, eating his mother's enchiladas and talking about the exact things he was building in the storage room. Diego's heart hammered against his ribs. This couldn't be real. Gwyn Shotwell didn't just show up at random Mexican restaurants in Austin, did she? Diego wanted desperately to say hello, but social situations terrified him. What if he said something stupid? What if she thought he was just a weird kid bothering her during lunch? Instead, he went back to his project, working with twice as much energy. If a real SpaceX engineer was somehow in his family's restaurant, maybe the universe was trying to tell him something. As Gwyn finished her meal, she asked Maria, "Would you mind showing me around? I'd love to see the whole place." Maria gave her a tour of the small restaurant, the kitchen where Rosa worked magic with simple ingredients, the dining room where 3 generations of families came to celebrate, the small office where Carlos did paperwork late into the night. Finally, they reached the storage room where Diego sat surrounded by wires, solar panels, and computer parts. "What's all this?" Gwyn asked, genuinely curious. Diego looked up, his eyes wide behind thick glasses. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Then his passion for engineering overcame his shyness. "It's a water purification system," he said quietly. "I built it for my science fair project." Gwyn knelt down to look at his work more closely. Her face showed real amazement, not the fake interest adults usually gave kids' projects. "Diego, this is remarkable. You designed this yourself?" Diego nodded. "It uses solar power to run a pump. The water goes through 3 different filters I made from recycled materials. It can clean dirty water and make it safe to drink." "How did you know to use this particular combination of filtration methods?" "I researched it online. I wanted something that could help people in poor countries. But also..." Diego's voice got even quieter. "Maybe astronauts someday. People going to Mars will need clean water." Gwyn's eyebrows shot up. This 16-year-old hadn't just built a science fair project. He'd engineered a real solution to problems that SpaceX engineers worked on every day. "Diego, have you tested this? Does it actually work? Want to see?" Diego's eyes lit up with excitement. He poured muddy water from a jar into his system. The solar panel caught light from the window. The pump hummed quietly. 30 seconds later, crystal clear water dripped out the other end. Gwyn stared at the clean water, then at Diego's proud face, then back at the amazing machine built from scraps and genius. "Diego, this isn't just good. This is incredible. You've solved problems that professional engineers struggle with." "Really?" Diego could hardly believe it. "Really? In fact..." Gwyn paused, looking at the brilliant boy and his amazing invention. "Do you mind if I ask your parents to join us? I think they should hear this too." 5 minutes later, Carlos and Rosa stood in the storage room staring at their son's invention. Diego explained how his water purifier worked, his voice growing stronger with each word. The first filter removes big particles like dirt and leaves, Diego said, pointing to each part. The second filter uses charcoal to take out chemicals. The third filter I made myself from recycled plastic bottles. It catches tiny bacteria that can make people sick. Carlos touched the solar panels with amazement. You built all this yourself, mijo? I used parts from old computers and broken appliances. Mr. Chen from the electronics store gave me stuff he was throwing away. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. Her son had been working on something incredible, and she'd barely noticed because she was always cooking or cleaning. This could really help people? Rosa asked Gwyn. Mrs. Hernandez, your son hasn't just built a science project. He's created technology that could save lives in poor countries where people don't have clean water, in disaster areas where water systems are broken, and yes, potentially even for space exploration. Diego's face glowed with pride and disbelief. But Gwyn wasn't finished. There's something else I need to tell you. Something about who I am. Carlos and Rosa exchanged glances. They sensed this conversation was about to change direction. I didn't just happen to be in the neighborhood today, Gwyn continued. I came here specifically to meet your family. What do you mean? Carlos asked, his voice growing suspicious. I work for SpaceX. I'm the president of the company. The storage room went completely silent. Diego's mouth fell open. Maria grabbed the doorframe for support. Rosa gasped softly. Carlos's face went from confused to pale to red with anger. You work for him, Carlos said, his voice shaking. For Elon Musk. I do, Gwyn said calmly. He's been my boss and my friend for over 20 years. Get out. Carlos's voice was quiet, but deadly serious. Get out of my restaurant right now. Carlos, no! Diego jumped between his father and Gwyn. She said my invention was good. She's lying to us, Diego. Rich people always lie. Dad, please. Get out! Carlos shouted, loud enough that customers in the dining room turned to look. Rosa put her hand on her husband's arm. Carlos, she's been nothing but kind to us. Amar, she works for the man who fires thousands of people. She probably came here to spy on us before that blogger story comes out. Gwyn didn't argue or get defensive. Instead, she looked sad. Mr. Hernandez, you have every right to be angry about layoffs. Losing a job is terrible. It hurts families and destroys dreams. I've seen it happen, and it breaks my heart every time. Then why do you do it? Carlos demanded. Because sometimes we have to choose between laying off some people temporarily or losing the whole company and everyone's jobs forever. Easy words for rich people to say. You're right, words are easy. That's why Elon created a job placement fund to help laid-off workers find new positions. That's why we hired back most of our people within 6 months when Tesla's finances improved. That's why we're building new factories that will create more jobs than we ever had to cut. Carlos crossed his arms. I don't believe you. Gwyn pulled out her phone and showed him a website. The Tesla Family Support Fund. We didn't publicize it because help shouldn't be about getting credit. But maybe we were wrong. Maybe people need to see that we care about more than just profits. Carlos looked at the screen. Photos of real families. Stories of people who found new jobs. Workers who were rehired when Tesla expanded. This could all be fake, Carlos said, but his voice had less anger in it. It's not fake, Dad, Diego said quietly. I've read about this fund online. It's real. Maria stepped forward. Carlos, I need to tell you something. When I apologized to SpaceX for what happened here, they offered me an internship interview. Carlos stared at her. What? I turned it down. Because you and Rosa are my family. I couldn't abandon you. Maria, Rosa whispered. But maybe I was. Wrong, Maria continued. Maybe loyalty and dreams don't have to fight each other. Gwyn nodded. That's exactly right, Maria. In fact, that's why I'm really here. She turned to face the whole family. 3 days ago, when Elon was turned away from your restaurant, he could have gotten angry. He could have posted something mean on Twitter. He could have forgotten about it and moved on. What did he do? Rosa asked quietly. He asked me to learn about your family, not to hurt you, but to understand you, to see if maybe we had more in common than anyone realized. Carlos felt his anger wavering. What do you mean? Elon grew up poor, Mr. Hernandez. When he started his first company, he slept on the office floor because he couldn't afford rent. He showered at the YMCA and ate peanut butter sandwiches for every meal. Gwyn showed them an old photo on her phone. A young Elon Musk, skinny and exhausted, standing in a tiny office surrounded by computer equipment. He remembers what it feels like to worry about failing, to know that other people depend on you, to dream big while struggling with small problems. Rosa wiped tears from her eyes. We never knew that. Most people don't. Success makes everyone forget the struggle. But Elon never wants to forget. Carlos looked around at his family. Diego's hopeful face, Rosa's tears, Maria's sacrifice. The storage room full of his son's genius and dreams. Why are you telling us this? Carlos asked. Because Elon has an idea. A way to help your family and your restaurant while also supporting young inventors like Diego and dreamers like Maria. What kind of idea? Rosa asked. Before Gwyn could answer, Diego's phone buzzed with a text from his friend Sam next door. Dude, you need to look outside right now. There are like 20 Teslas parked on our street. Diego ran to the window. Oh my God, he whispered. The family crowded around to look outside. Tesla vehicles lined both sides of South Lamar Boulevard. Model S sedans, Model Y SUVs, even a few Cybertrucks that drew stares from passing pedestrians. What's happening? Rosa asked. Then they saw him stepping out of a white Model S, Elon Musk himself. But he wasn't alone. Behind him came dozens of people, men and women in casual clothes, carrying something in their hands. Who are all those people? Carlos asked. Gwyn smiled. Tesla engineers, SpaceX employees, Austin City Council members, local small business owners, people who believe in community. The group approached the restaurant, but they weren't protesting or causing trouble. They carried flowers, food donations, and handwritten signs that said, "Thank you for feeding our community," and "Small businesses make Austin special." Carlos watched in shock as Elon Musk knocked gently on the front door of Rosa's kitchen. With these trembling hands, Carlos walked through the restaurant and opened the door. Every customer stopped eating to watch. "Mr. Hernandez," Elon said simply, "I came to apologize." "You apologize? To me? You were protecting your family and your values. I respect that. I wanted to show you that we might share more values than... You think?" Elon gestured to the people behind him. "These folks work for Tesla and SpaceX. They also love small businesses, family restaurants, and supporting their neighbors. Just like you do." A Tesla engineer stepped forward. "Mr. Hernandez, I eat at family restaurants every day. Places like yours make Austin special." A SpaceX technician added, "My parents ran a small grocery store in San Antonio. I know how hard it is to keep a family business alive." Carlos felt overwhelmed. These weren't the heartless corporate people he'd imagined. They were regular folks with families, dreams, and struggles of their own. "Why?" Carlos asked Elon, his voice breaking. "Why do all this for someone who is rude to you?" Elon looked past Carlos to where Diego stood holding his water purifier. Rosa wiped her hands on her apron, and Maria watched with tears in her eyes. "Because," Elon said, "I think your family and my company want the same thing: to build something that helps people and makes the world better." That evening, after the crowd of Tesla and SpaceX employees had left flowers and kind words, the Hernandez family sat around their kitchen table above the restaurant. The day felt like a strange dream. Diego couldn't stop talking about his water purifier. For the first time, his parents really listened as he explained every detail of his invention. "You see, Dad, the solar panels charge this battery during the day. Then the system can work even at night or when it's cloudy." Carlos picked up one of the homemade filters, turning it over in his hands. "You really made this from old plastic." "Bottles! I melted them down and reformed the plastic into tiny beads. They catch bacteria that are too small to see." "Mijo, I had no idea you were building something so important." Diego beamed. His father had never shown this much interest in his inventions before. Rosa served dinner while they talked. "Carlos, that Elon man seemed different than I expected." "How do you mean?" "Kinder. More human." When he apologized, I believed him. Carlos had been thinking about this all afternoon. The young man in that old photo looked nothing like the billionaire he'd imagined. Thin, tired, worried about money, just like Carlos had been at that age. "Maybe I judged too quickly," Carlos said quietly. Maria knocked on their door. She'd been walking around Austin for hours, thinking about everything that had happened. "Come in, mija," Rosa called. Maria sat down at the table, looking exhausted. "I wanted to tell you something about the SpaceX internship." "What about it?" Carlos asked. "I called them back today. I told Ms. Shotwell I couldn't take it because you're my family. I won't abandon you when the restaurant is struggling." Diego jumped up from his chair. "Maria, no! You can't give up SpaceX for us." "It's already done, Diego." Carlos felt something break open in his chest. This girl, who dreamed of reaching Mars, had chosen loyalty over her biggest opportunity. She was choosing his family over her own future. "Maria, that's not right," Carlos said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's what families do for each other." Carlos looked around the table, at Diego's amazing inventions, at Rosa's worried but loving face, at Maria's sacrifice. He thought about the angry man who had refused service to someone he'd never met. Maybe I was completely wrong about everything," Carlos said slowly. Just then, Diego's phone buzzed with another text from Sam. "Dude, look outside again. There's like a whole parade of cars now." They rushed to the window. Sure enough, even more vehicles had arrived. Not just Teslas this time, but regular cars too. People were getting out with more flowers, more signs, more food donations. "What's happening now?" Rosa asked. Then they saw him again. Elon Musk stepped out of his car, but this time he brought even more people. The group looked like a small celebration gathering on South Lamar Boulevard. Why are they all here? Carlos wondered aloud. Elon walked to the restaurant door and knocked gently again. Carlos went downstairs to answer, his family following behind him. "Mr. Musk," Carlos said, still not sure how to act. "You came back. I wanted to talk with you, properly this time, all of us together. Would that be okay?" Carlos nodded and invited them inside. The restaurant was closed for the evening, but he turned on the lights. Elon sat at the same corner table where everything had started 3 days ago. Carlos, Rosa, Diego, and Maria sat across from him. First, Elon said, "I want to apologize. Again. Not for being refused service. You had every right to do that. I want to apologize for the Tesla layoffs that hurt so many families." Carlos started to speak, but Elon continued. "When I bought Twitter, Tesla's stock price dropped badly. We faced a choice: lay off some workers temporarily, or risk the whole company failing and everyone losing their jobs forever. It was the hardest decision I've ever made." "We didn't know the whole story," Rosa said softly. "Most people didn't. But that doesn't make it hurt less for the families who lost their paychecks. Every single one of those layoffs was a real person with real problems." Elon pulled out his tablet and showed them something new. "This is what we've been working on since then. The Tesla Family Fund has helped 8,400 former employees find new jobs. We've paid rent for families while they looked for work. We've hired back 6,200 people as our business improved." Carlos studied the numbers and photos on the screen. Real families getting real help. "But there's something else," Elon continued. "Something I learned from being refused service here." "What's that?" Diego asked, leaning forward with curiosity. "I realized that success can make you forget where you came from. It can make you stop seeing the real people affected by your decisions." Elon showed them another photo on his tablet. This one was recent. Elon visiting families who had lost jobs, helping them fill out applications, sharing meals in their homes. "Your restaurant reminded me that business isn't just about profits and rockets and stock prices. It's about people. It's about community. It's about families like yours." Carlos felt his anger melting away completely. This wasn't the heartless billionaire he'd imagined. "There's one more thing," Elon said. "I know your restaurant is struggling financially. I know the building owner wants to sell to developers." Carlos's face flushed with embarrassment. "How did you find out about that?" "Because 25 years ago, I was in almost the exact same situation." Elon's voice grew quiet with memory. "When I was building my first company, there was a small restaurant in Palo Alto where I ate every day. I was broke and working 20-hour days. The owner saw me eating the same cheap sandwich for weeks." Rosa leaned forward, sensing an important story. "One day, the owner brought me a full meal. 'No charge,' he said. 'You're working hard. Someone should feed you properly.' He did that every day for 3 months. Never asked for anything back." Carlos and Rosa exchanged glances, not sure where this was going. "When my company finally made money, I went back to thank him. But the owner had died, and his restaurant was closing. His family couldn't afford the rent after he passed away." Elon's eyes grew sad. "I swore that if I ever had the power to save a place like that, a family like his, I would do it." The silence stretched for a long moment. "What are you saying?" Carlos asked quietly. "I'm saying that your restaurant isn't just about food, it's about dreams and family and community. Just like that place in Palo Alto was." Elon took a deep breath. "The building owner is selling to developers next month. They want to tear down this whole block to build luxury apartments." Carlos felt his heart sink. "We know. We can't afford to compete with developers. What if someone else bought the building instead? Someone who believes small businesses make cities special." Rosa grabbed Carlos's hand under the table. "I want to buy this building," Elon said simply. "Not to change it, but to protect it. You would own your restaurant space forever. No more rent increases. No more fear of losing your home." The words hit Carlos like lightning. "You want to buy our building? I want to save it. The way someone should have saved that restaurant in Palo Alto 25 years ago. But Carlos sensed there was still more to this story. Something bigger than just buying a building. Carlos studied Elon's face carefully. After running a restaurant for 12 years, he'd learned to read people. Elon was being generous and kind, but there was something else in his eyes. Something deeper than just buying a building. "There's more to this, isn't there?" Carlos asked. Quietly, Elon smiled, and for the first time all week, it looked completely natural. "You're very observant, Mr. Hernandez. Yes, there's more." He turned to look at Diego, who had been listening with wide eyes to every word. "Diego, can you show me your water purifier again?" Diego practically jumped out of his chair. "Really? You want to see it?" "I really do." They all went back to the storage room. Diego's invention sat among boxes of restaurant supplies, looking humble but amazing. Elon knelt down to examine every detail. "Walk me through how it works," Elon said. For the next 20 minutes, Diego explained his design with growing confidence. Elon asked thoughtful questions that showed he really understood the engineering. "The filtration rate is impressive," Elon said. "How much clean water can it produce per hour?" "About 5 gallons, Diego said proudly. "But I think I could make it faster if I had better materials." "What about power consumption?" "The solar panel produces enough energy to run everything during the day. The battery stores power for nighttime use." Elon looked amazed. "Diego, this is remarkable work. You've solved problems that our engineers at SpaceX are still working on." "Really?" Diego could hardly believe it. "Really? In fact, we've been developing water recycling systems for Mars missions. Clean water will be one of the biggest challenges for astronauts on long space trips." Diego's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "My invention could help astronauts?" "Your invention could help astronauts and people here on Earth. That's the best kind of engineering. Solutions that work everywhere." Carlos and Rosa watched their son glowing with pride and purpose. They'd never seen him this confident and happy. "There's something else, Diego," Elon continued. "The state science fair is next month, right?" "Yes, sir. The winner gets a $1,000 scholarship." "What if I told you that scholarship could become something much bigger?" Diego tilted his head, confused. "What do you mean?" Elon looked at Carlos and Rosa. "With your parents' permission, I'd like to invite you to visit our Austin Gigafactory. We have a program for young inventors called Tesla Future Engineers." "What kind of program?" Rosa asked. "We work with brilliant kids like Diego to develop their inventions. We provide materials, guidance from professional engineers, and funding for their education." Carlos felt his head spinning. "You mean Diego could work with real engineers?" "Diego already is a real engineer," Elon said firmly. "He just needs the right support to reach his full potential." But Elon wasn't finished with his surprises. "Maria," he said, turning to face her. "Gwen told me about your decision to turn down the SpaceX internship." Maria nodded sadly. "I couldn't abandon my family when they need me." "What if I told you that you don't have to choose between family and dreams?" "I don't understand." Elon explained his idea. SpaceX would fund Maria's entire engineering education at UT Austin. In exchange, she could work part-time at Rosa's kitchen and part-time as a SpaceX intern. "You mean she could do both?" Rosa asked. "The best solutions help everyone win," Elon said. "Maria keeps her connection to your family while pursuing her dreams. SpaceX gets a brilliant intern who understands loyalty and hard work." Maria started crying right there in the storage room, happy tears mixed with disbelief. "But why?" she asked through her tears. "Why would you do all this for us?" And that's when Elon revealed the biggest secret of all. Because 25 years ago, when I was building my first company, I wasn't just helped by one restaurant owner. There was also a young waitress who worked there. Carlos and Rosa exchanged confused glances. Her name was Carmen Santos. She was 19 years old, studying engineering at San Jose State University, working nights to pay for school. Maria gasped. "Santos is my last name, but that's a common name." Carmen had the same dream you do, Maria. She wanted to work in aerospace. She wanted to help design spacecraft that could take humans to other planets. Elon pulled out his phone and showed them an old photo. A young woman with Maria's eyes and smile, wearing a waitress uniform and holding engineering textbooks. This is Carmen Santos in 1999. She served me coffee every night for 3 months while I worked on my laptop in that restaurant. Maria stared at the photo, her hands shaking. She looks like you, Maria. Because Carmen Santos was your aunt. The storage room went completely silent. Maria's mouth fell open. Rosa put her hand over her heart. "My Aunt Carmen died when I was little," Maria whispered. "My mother said she was brilliant with math and science. She was going to be an engineer, but she got sick before she could finish college." Elon finished gently. "Cancer. She was only 22. Tears streamed down Maria's face. "How? Do you know all this?" "Because Carmen told me about her dreams during those long nights in the restaurant. She wanted to design life support systems for space stations. She wanted to help humans live among the stars." Elon's voice grew soft with memory. "When she got sick, I was still poor and struggling. I couldn't help her the way I wanted to. By the time my company succeeded and I had money, it was too late." Carlos finally understood. "You're not just helping us. You're helping her." I'm keeping a promise I made to a brilliant young woman 25 years ago. I told Carmen that someday, when I had the power to help, I would support young engineers who shared her dreams. Rosa wiped tears from her eyes. Carmen always talked about space and rockets. Even as a little girl, she was ahead of her time, Elon said. But you, Maria, are living at exactly the right time. You can achieve everything Carmen dreamed of and more. Maria could barely speak through her emotions. She would have loved this. She would have been so proud. "She is proud," Elon said. "And she's the reason I'll never stop believing in young people who dream of reaching the stars." Diego looked around at all the crying adults, then at his water purifier, then back at Elon. "Mr. Musk," he said quietly, "does this mean my invention really could help people get to Mars?" Elon smiled through his own tears. "Diego, I think your generation is going to do things mine can only dream about. And your water purifier might be one of the inventions that makes it all possible." But even now, Carlos sensed there was still one more surprise coming. As the tears dried and the emotions settled, Carlos noticed something in Elon's expression, a nervousness that hadn't been there before, like someone about to ask the most important question of their life. "There is one more thing," Elon said, confirming Carlos's instinct. "Something I haven't told you yet." The family gathered closer, sensing this was the moment everything had been building toward. When Carmen Santos died 25 years ago, she left behind something important, something I've been looking for ever since. "What?" Maria asked quietly. Elon reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn notebook. The cover was faded blue, held together with rubber bands. Carmen's engineering journal. She gave it to me, the EED, last time I saw her, right before she went into the hospital. She made me promise to find someone worthy of her dreams and give it to them. Maria's hands trembled as Elon placed the notebook in front of her. She wrote down every idea she ever had about space exploration, life support systems, water recycling, air purification, gravity simulation. Some of her designs were 20 years ahead of their time. Maria carefully opened the notebook. The pages were filled with Carmen's careful handwriting, detailed drawings, and mathematical equations that looked like poetry. "She was brilliant," Maria whispered, turning pages filled with her aunt's dreams. "But here's what I never told anyone," Elon continued, his voice growing serious. 3 of Carmen's designs are currently being used on the International Space Station. 2 more are planned for our Mars missions. The room went dead silent. "What do you mean?" Rosa asked. "I mean, Carmen Santos didn't just dream about space technology. She invented it. Her ideas helped keep astronauts alive for the past decade." Elon showed them his phone screen displaying SpaceX technical documents. Water Recycling System, CS1. Air Purification Unit, CS2. The CS stands for Carmen Santos. Maria stared at the screen, then at the notebook, then back at Elon. "My aunt's inventions are in space? Right now? Right now! Astronauts on the space station are breathing cleaner air because of your aunt's designs." Diego jumped up excitedly. "That's amazing! Maria, your family is already helping people in space." But Elon wasn't finished with his revelations. "Carmen made me promise something else before she died. She made me swear that if I ever found her family, I would tell them the truth about her legacy." "What truth?" Carlos asked. "Your aunt wasn't just a brilliant engineer, Maria. She was also very wealthy." The confusion on everyone's faces was obvious. Carmen patented several of her designs before she got sick. Those patents have earned millions of dollars in royalties over the past 25 years. Maria's mouth fell open. Millions? The money has been sitting in a trust fund, waiting for her family to claim it. I've been the trustee, but I was never supposed to keep it. It belongs to Carmen's relatives. Rosa grabbed the edge of the table for support. "How much money?" $4.2 million, plus interest. The storage room spun around Carlos. He sat down heavily on a box of napkins. "That money could have helped us years ago," he said weakly. "I couldn't find you," Elon said gently. "Carmen's family moved after she died. I hired private investigators, but they never found the right Santos family. There are thousands of Santos families in America." "Then how did you find us?" Maria asked. Elon smiled. "You found me. When you sent that email to SpaceX, you mentioned studying engineering at UT Austin, just like Carmen did at San Jose State. You mentioned working at a family restaurant to pay for school, just like Carmen did. So when Gwen called me, I had her team research your background. When I saw your photo, you looked exactly like Carmen at 19. When I learned your last name was Santos and you dreamed of aerospace engineering, I knew. You knew that first night? When my dad kicked you out, I suspected. But I had to be sure before I said anything." Carlos looked around at his family, his restaurant, his life that had just changed forever. So the building purchase, the internships, the engineering program, those were always part of the plan, Elon said. But the money belongs to you legally. It's been yours all along. Maria held Carmen's notebook against her chest, crying again. "She saved us. Even after all these years, she saved us." "Carmen saved herself," Elon corrected gently. "She was brilliant enough to create inventions that would support her family forever. I was just the messenger." 6 months later, Rosa's kitchen was busier than ever. The story of the family's connection to space technology had spread through social media, bringing customers from all over Texas. But more importantly, it had brought the community together. The whole block was now owned by families instead of developers. 3 other restaurants had expanded. A small park had been built where the empty lot used to be. Diego's water purifier had won the state science fair and was being developed by Tesla engineers for both disaster relief and Mars missions. He spent his afternoons at the Geiger factory, working with professional engineers who treated him as an equal. Maria was thriving at UT Austin with her full SpaceX scholarship. She still worked weekend shifts at Rosa's kitchen, but now she also spent time at SpaceX facilities, learning from the best engineers in the world. Carlos and Rosa had paid off all their debts and renovated the restaurant, but they kept the same recipes, the same warm atmosphere, and the same corner table where everything had changed. And sometimes, on quiet Tuesday evenings, a simple black Tesla pulled up outside Rosa's kitchen. Elon Musk would walk in, order Rosa's enchiladas, and sit at that corner table, reading engineering journals and watching the Hernandez family live their dreams. The sign by the door now read, "Rosa's Kitchen, where dreams and enchiladas come true." And below that, in Diego's careful handwriting, "Next stop, Mars." That was the end of this incredible journey of kindness, dreams, and second chances. From a moment of rejection on a rainy Tuesday night to a 25-year promise finally fulfilled, we witnessed how one act of understanding can transform multiple lives forever. We'd love to know, where are you listening from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. It's amazing to connect with viewers from all around the world who believe in the power of compassion and human connection. If this tale of the Hernandez family and their unexpected encounter touched your heart, please hit that like button. Your support helps us share more inspiring content about real people making a difference in unexpected ways. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss these uplifting accounts of kindness, innovation, and the surprising connections that bind us all together. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. In a world that often feels divided, we need more reminders that understanding and generosity can bridge any gap. Help us spread awareness that every person has a tale worth hearing, and every act of kindness, no matter how small, can create ripples that change lives for generations. Thank you for being part of this community that celebrates the best of humanity. Until next time, keep believing in the power of compassion and never underestimate what one person can do to make the world a little brighter. See you in the next video.